All right, so this is a multi-time frame related question here. So we're going to be, looking at the slope of the 20 EMA, right? So we're looking for, again, this is for a, see, I missed a letter. There we go. So for a long signal, right? We're using a 10 range chart, and so we're looking at the 20 EMA on a 10 range chart, and we're looking for it to have a positive slope, right? And then the second condition here is going to be on a 5 range chart, and so we're looking for a pullback of the stochastic K line. So we want the K line to dip below 30, right? Dip below the 30 value, right? And so those are the two setup conditions that we're looking for. Those are the setup conditions, and then the actual signal is when we get the first up bar, right? The first up bar, and this obviously this is going to be on a range chart, right? So give me a moment here to get my charts set up. All right, so we'll switch to a 5 range chart like so. All right, so there's our EMA. Okay, well, so let's get BloodHound open and start working. All right, so the first thing you want to do, when you're starting with a new system here is create a file name, right? Assign a file name. So I'm going to hit the change button here. So let me adjust the date. There we go. All right, save that. There we go. So now we have a file name to save all of our work to. Okay, so I'm going to start working on the logic board, right, and basically switch over to the logic tab here. And then we need to create a new logic template, right? If we look here, there's no logic template, so just hit new. And now we have a logic template to work with. All right, so this is basically a multi-time frame EMA 20 with a stochastics pullback. Let's see. All right, and there's some other work we need to do. So let's create the 10 range chart. So I'm going to switch back over to my solvers tab here and hit the chart button. Oops, and I double clicked. Let's get rid of that. All right. So hitting the chart button is how you add a secondary chart, right, or time frame, right? That's what charts are. They're time frames, when we use them in this context. So, and then we can go and select what type of secondary chart, or time frame we want to use here. And so let's set that up to a 10 range, right? There you go, 10 range. Okay, and then also on the chart, you'll notice here it says, new chart added. So we need to reload our chart. And what that does is that allows NinjaTrader to create that 10 range time frame that BloodHound needs, right? So if you look at the name here of BloodHound down at the bottom, we can see that BloodHound, the OBC, that stands for on bar close, right? So OBC is, if we let's go to the settings here. All right, so if we go to our indicators and click on BloodHound, right, the setup calculate setting is set to on bar close, right? So you also have on each tick and you have on price change. So basically that little abbreviation tells you what calculation mode BloodHound is running in. So, but what I wanted to point out was we can see here BloodHound has a 5 range loaded, but actually the 5 range is coming from the chart, right? Our chart up here is a 5 range, but BloodHound also has a 10 range chart loaded into it, or 10 range time frame. Yeah, a little tip, the way NinjaTrader operates, you always want BloodHound to be running on the lowest time frame or fastest time frame, depending on how you say it, right? Okay, so let's get BloodHound back open again here and switch over to the logic tab. So now that BloodHound can be working with 2 time frames, when we go to our solver nodes, you'll see the default time frame, right? And so what is the default time frame? Well, that's the chart that BloodHound is running on. So BloodHound is running on a 5-range chart. So the default time frame is the 5-range chart that BloodHound's running on. So if we switch this chart, over to a 1-minute chart or a 2-minute chart, then the default time frame automatically becomes that 1-minute chart, right? That 1-minute time frame. So, and then we can also see the 10-minute range there. Okay, so yeah, so going back to our questions here. All right, so condition number 1 is we want to look at the slope of, right, the 20-period EMA. So, and it's on the 10-range chart. Actually, yeah, you know what? This EMA here actually on the chart isn't going to do us much good because, yeah, that's not a 10 range. So I'm just going to remove it, like so. And let me take the time to add the stochastics onto the chart. Yeah, let me dump the stochastics on here. And let's see. Yeah, so this time we're actually using the K line. So let me adjust my colors here. So let's hide the D line. And let's make the K line visible. Okay. There, now I have the stochastics on our 5-range chart. So let's see. Also, I'm gonna mark the 30 value for the stochastics. All right. Okay. Let's get BloodHound back open. And okay, yeah. So back to the slope of the 20 EMA. So let's go to our 10-range chart, and we're going to grab a slope solver, like so. And let's connect it up, and then let's give this solver a name. There. All right. And so next, we need to load the EMA into the slope solver. So let's go to our input and go to the indicator. Let's open up, hit that little button right there. And here's our list of indicators. All right, there's our EMA. Let's add that. Change the period to 20. All right, click OK. All right, so now on our chart, we can see, right, if the EMA 20 on the 10-range chart is sloping down, we're going to get, right, a short or a red output. And if the EMA 20 is sloping up, we're going to get a long output. There we go. All right. So there, simply put, that is condition number 1. And so condition number 2 was we need to look for that pullback on the stochastics. And let's see here. So we're looking, so we're looking for the K line to cross, right, the 30 value on the stochastics, right? So the key word here is cross. So we're looking for a cross down condition. So we're looking for the stochastic to cross, right, the 30 value. So that we're going to go to the default time frame now, right? Because we're looking at the stochastics on the 5-range chart. So we want to be on the default time frame now. And so let's use a crossover solver for that. And we can detect when the stochastics crosses the 30 value. All right, let's give this a name. All right, so Stochastic K crossing over, or actually crossing below the 30 line. There. All right, so input A, that will be our stochastics. So let's go find that indicator. There's our stochastics. And so in this example, we're just using the default period settings here. And then we need to go down here, down to the plots, and select the K line, right? So the stochastics, right, has 2 plots. So make sure you select which plot you're using for your system. So, all right. And then input B, well, that is going to be right, the 30 value. So we're going to change the type to a fixed value, right? And we're going to type in 30. So 30 is our fixed value, the 30 line. Okay, so now there we go. We can see whenever the stochastics crosses the 30 line, but if when we look here, right, when the stochastics crosses below, right, we're getting a short output, but we're looking that from that cross below, we're looking for a long condition, right? So this short output is not going to help us. We need a long output when the stochastic crosses below 30. So what we can do here, what we need to do and what we can do is go to the outputs for the crossover. And so instead of using crosses in direction, let's turn that off. We actually want to use crosses against direction. So we're going to turn that output on. And now if we look, right now when the stochastic crosses down, we're getting a long output, right? And there we go. We're getting a long output, getting a long output. So there we go. So that's what we need when we're trying to build or create a long signal. So there's that condition. And then let's see, there's one part here. Oh yeah, here we go. So it's not necessary for condition 1 to remain true while the pullback happens, right? So again, remember condition 1 is the slope of the EMA on the higher time frame. So what we need to do is, we're going to have to, well, let's take a look. Let's look at the slope, right, of the 20 EMA. And let's see if we can find an example here. Yeah, here we go. So, right, remember the short output here. Right, so remember when we're getting this short output, right, that means the EMA 20 on the 10 range chart is sloping down. But if we look right here, right, our stochastics dipped below 30, but our slope solver is giving us a short output. Right, so if we simply, so let's just use an AND node here, and so let's combine these together, right? And so here, actually, we got, we got a little, actually we got a crossover right there. Darn. So this really wasn't a great example, but if you think about it, right, the stochastics cross down again, but there's no long signal here, right? So in this situation, right, we would be missing a possible long signal there. So what we need to do is basically take our slope solver and extend it forward, a couple of bars, in case the stochastics takes a little extra time, right, to cross that 30 value. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a simple approach here and use, I could either use a look back node or a signal extender. I'll grab a signal extender. In this case, there's really, in this particular case, it doesn't really matter which one I choose here. And let's see, let's probably just extend. We probably only need to extend for like 2 extra bars. So if we look at BloodHound's output now, right, we can see we have this kind of dual output here, right? So we're getting a long output for 2 extra bars after our EMA starts sloping down, right? And we can tell that our EMA is sloping down because, right, we have this, short output. And so, but now we have like this 2 extra bars here, of this long condition, so that way, the stochastics can take its time to do the little crossover. So now, if I do this, here, let's connect this all up like that. Right. So there we go. So here is that missing, right, cross down condition there, right, condition number 2. So now we have that missing condition. Right. Oops. Oh, shoot. I clicked on the wrong thing and removed BloodHound off the chart. All right, let me get BloodHound loaded back up. All right, let me load in today's BloodHound file first. There we go. Oh, well, look at that. I never realized that. Normally, whenever BloodHound is forced to close, it saves all of its work. But since I accidentally deleted it, yeah, BloodHound wasn't able to save its work. So let's go through here and quickly. I'm just going to whip through this real fast and just kind of recreate everything. Save some time here. Okay, there we go. Now we're back to where we're at. Yeah, so let me save this work here. So normally here a little tip: whenever you close whenever you close BloodHound's interface window, that saves all your work back to the file automatically there. All right, so so we need to finish working on the stochastics condition here, right? So for a long signal, right, that's the stochastic crossing 30, but for a short signal, right, we'd be looking for the stochastics to cross the 70 value there, right? So looking at our crossover solver here, right? So we've got one crossover solver, looking for crossing the 30 line. Right, and so we're going to need a second crossover solver to cross that 70 value there, right? And something that I did here real quickly, and I didn't explain what I did. So what I did is I changed the evaluate to long only. Right, so if we look, all we're seeing now is when the stochastics crosses down, right, crosses down on the 30 line. So when I change the evaluate to long only, right, I'm only seeing the long outputs here, right? If I left it on both, then, right, I would see whenever the stochastics crossed up above the 30 line. But, we're not interested in those long outputs. We're only interested, right, in the short output there. So we want to set the evaluate to long only like that. So, all right, so now I need a crossover solver for the 70 line here, right, for that 70 line. So let's grab another crossover solver here. All right, and again, we're working on the default time frame, right, because condition 2 is using the 5 range chart and looking at the stochastics. So we're going to go to the default time frame and grab another crossover solver. And I'm going to connect that up to the result node. All right, give this a name. All right, this time we're looking for the stochastics to cross up of the 70 value, right? So actually, let me adjust the name here, adjust that back to cross down. There we go. All right. So one crossover solver is looking at the cross down of the 30. The other crossover solver is going to be looking for the cross up of the 70 line. And that evaluate is going to be short only. And I just need to adjust my outputs here so that we're using the crosses against direction again there. All right, crosses against direction. Oh, and input B needs to be the fixed value, and we're looking for the 70 line or a 70 value. Let's see here, and oh, what happened here? Input A. I didn't finish setting up that stochastics. There we go. Stick the stochastics in there. Select the K line. And there we go. So whenever that stochastics crosses up of the 70 value, right, that's our kind of precondition for a short signal. Now, both of these crossover solvers need to go into an OR node like this. And so if we look at the OR node, if we look at this, now there are all of the crossover conditions, right, listed on our chart now. So now we can see, right, all of them together, the cross downs and the cross ups for the stochastics. Okay. And so now we can take this OR node and connect it into the AND node. And so now we can see basically condition 1 and condition 2, right? Kind of the pre-setup here. And now we're just waiting for the entry condition, right? Which is waiting for the range bar to close, basically to close in the right direction, right? So we're waiting for the first up bar, right, to close after we get these signals here. So let's take a look here. So if we look at our chart, there is our first up bar after the crossover condition, and then for the shorts, right, that's our first down bar after that. And let's see. Oh, so here we go. We actually got an up bar on the stochastic condition. And then if we're going to wait for another one, right, there we go. There's another one. So there. All right. So there's a couple of basically signal bars here marked for us. So let's see. There's a couple of ways we can do this. We could use the bar direction, right, and just simply look for an up bar. And actually, yeah, that's what we need to do. Since this is on a range chart, yeah, we actually need to use an up bar or a bar direction solver. I was thinking of actually using the where is it? There we go. The inflection solver for this, but we don't always get reversals. So an up bar on a range chart isn't always like a reverse in price. For example, right here where my cursor's at, we can see that the close of both of these bars equal each other. So the closing price didn't actually reverse up. So an inflection solver would not work in this situation simply because, yeah, the closing price stayed flat. It didn't actually reverse up. So the inflection solver would not give us a signal here on this up bar. Yeah, so we're going to actually need to use a bar direction for this. So now there's some choices that need to be made for this bar direction, right? The bar direction has a signals for dojis option here. And yeah, this was added a while back specifically for range charts, because what happens on range charts a lot is you get dojis, right? And so sometimes these dojis are considered up bars, even though there's no body to it. But sometimes in your system building, you might consider these dojis up bars, right? And then this other one, go away. This other doji, you might consider that a down bar. So we have this option here to consider gravestones or dragonfly signals, right? That's what these are called. Or if you don't want to include these dojis on range charts, then you can turn them off like that, right? And now we can see on the chart, right, these dojis are not considered as having a bar direction now. So there. So all right. Let's see. I'm going to leave it off for now. All right. So we have a bar direction. So next thing we need to do is, here we go. There's perfect situation right here. Right. So sometimes you get the stochastics crossing, right? Or basically condition number 2. And then you might have to wait a couple of bars before you get your first up bar. So we need to take our signal and extend it forward until we get to the first up bar. So let's see here. What am I going to do? Yeah, I'm going to use, let's see. So I have a choice. I can use either a toggle node or a signal extender. And, I'll use the toggle node for this. So if we look at the toggle node, basically what it's going to do is whenever the stochastic crosses that 30 value, right, it's turning the toggle node on, it's turning the long output on until our stochastic crosses the 70 value, right? And then the short output turns the short output off and then turns the long output on, right, for the toggle node. So then if we grab another AND node, I can stick the toggle node in there and then connect the bar direction in. So now what we're seeing is all the up bars, right? After our stochastic crosses below 30, we're now seeing all these up bars here, right? So obviously this is not correct, not yet, right? We only want the first up bar, right? That first up bar. So we need a way to turn our toggle node off, right? So if we look at our toggle node here, right? So we can see right here, the stochastics crossed 30 and we have an up bar. So we can actually turn the toggle node off after this first signal bar. So remember, we need to turn the toggle node off afterwards, right? So we want to turn the toggle node off and let's see, which one is the arrow? That's the arrow. There we go. So we want to turn the toggle node off after the signal bar. So, right, so this second bar is when we want to turn that toggle node off. So our toggle node, right, has a reset connector, right? You can see it, right? It has an input and a reset. And so we can use the reset to turn the toggle node off. So we can take the bar direction, and if we look at the bar direction here, right, it's giving us a long output, right, on the first up bar, but we don't want to turn the toggle node off on the first up bar. So we need to delay this long output from the bar direction. And let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, there's a couple ways we could do this. I could grab another bar direction, and I could use, so if I had a secondary bar direction, I could use the start bar as a go and just set that to 1. And basically that kind of shifts all the signals forward 1 bar. But I'm going to use the look back node here instead. And the look back node has a displacement function, right? And that's what I want to use, is this displacement function, which is turned on, right? But it's already set to 1 bar. So let me rename this here. I'm using the displacement function of this look back node. So if I connect my bar direction in there, and then if I look at my look back node, if we look at our signals here, right here's our up bar, but look, the long signal has been, everything has been shifted forward by 1 bar. Right, so I'm getting a long output on the bar, on the second bar, the bar after our first up bar, Remember, so this is the bar I want to turn off the toggle node. So I can take this look back, connect it into the toggle node, and all right. So I'm looking at the toggle node. And I connected our toggle node up to the result node so I can see what I'm doing. And so when I go into the toggle node, I can go into the reset section here. And so the on signal, I want to turn the output off. And there we go. Right? So there is our signal. Yeah, that's our signal. And there's our signal right there. So however, so we can see over here, the toggle node is on, gets turned on after we get our stochastics crossing, The toggle node turns on and stays on until we get our first up bar, and then it turns off. So there we go. So our toggle node's working. And so now with this AND node, if I look at the AND node now, those are our cleaned up signals, That's our cleaned up signals there. All right, let's squeeze this up here a little bit, and let's close that. And so let's just kind of run through here and take a look. So I already marked over here, a couple of stochastic crossings. And there we go. There's our signal. There's our signal. And so, what happened over here, We have a couple of stochastics crossing over here. So why didn't we get a signal? Well, it's probably because the EMA 20 on the 10 range hasn't reversed down yet, It hasn't turned down. And so we can actually verify that here. So remember that's over here. So here's our stochastics above 70. And we can double check that. So our slope solver, remember that's way back over here. So I can connect that in to the result node. And I can see, the EMA 20 hasn't started turning down until we get way over here. So there we go. I can mark that, and there we go. Color it red there. So if I look at our signals, there we go. So here is our first short signal after the EMA 20 turns down. So, and then of course we did get this long signal here, that just happened, a couple of bars after the EMA turned down. But we already had our stochastic had already crossed 30. there. So there we go. All right. So that is that. And yeah, here we go. Let me just a little tip here. Let's say, you know, let's say you also wanted to be able to know whether that EMA 20 is sloping up or sloping down, right? At the same time that you see your signals here. Here's a little trick that you can see two things at the same time with BloodHound, right? So you can see the discrete signals, but also you can look at one of your conditions. So, right, so in your system rules, if you want to be able to also see one of those conditions, kind of like what's a state condition, right? So like the slope of a moving average, right? That's basically like another way of saying that is that you know, the state of the EMA is either sloping up or sloping down, right? That's a state. So we can monitor, you know, a condition or a state of, you know, the slope of the EMA and see signals at the same time here. And the way we do that is we need a couple of OR nodes like this. So I'm going to grab a couple of OR nodes. There. Connect that in. There. And so now on this OR node, what I'm going to do is on this OR node here, I'm going to use the sliders down here, right? So you need to use the lower slider. And so if you look, right, the lower sliders, we have this OR node and AND node, right? And if you look, it says connected nodes right there, right? It tells you connected nodes, right? So we have this OR node here and this AND node, which are connected to this OR node, right? And so this connected OR node, I can take the output and reduce it down to something like that, right? Use the slider. And so I'm only seeing 30%, right? So basically what I did is this OR node, I adjusted the output so that the output is only 30%, right? So if I look at the slider, so I have this OR node selected. And so if I look at the slider up top, right, I can see my slider is adjusted to 30% here. So you can adjust these sliders in two spots here. So the upper, right, the upper slider, you can see it says selected node, right? And so this is the node I have selected. Now, if I select this node, well, the upper slider, yeah, it says selected node. So that would be the slider for this node. But when I look down below, right, it says connected nodes. So these sliders are for these nodes down here, right? Back here, I should say. So in any case, you know, what I wanted to show you is, right, we can see this kind of partial output and we can see the signals at the same time, right? So BloodHound can tell us when that EMA 20 slopes down, right? And we can actually, you know, we can see that from the output there. And then at the same time, we can also see the signals that occur, right? So, yeah, so you'll be able to kind of visually reference, you know, two things at the same time. You know, if that's going to be helpful for you. So just a little extra tip there. Yeah, let me just finish this off by saying, you know, if you don't want to see the slope of the EMA 20, then of course, you know, you just connect the AND node in here. All right. And let's give this a name here. So there. So this AND node basically are the signals. So it just depends on how you want to look, how you want to, you know, visualize things on your chart there.